Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another 50 Acres Academy webinar. Today we're going to be looking at live stream video, and the question is today, is it a gimmick or is it a changemaker? So I hope you're all going to enjoy this. It's raining where I am, but I'm not sure what the weather's like where you are. If you've got any questions, please pop them in to the question area of the box on your screen, the control panel, and I will get to them as we proceed. And there will be a recording of this webinar, and also the slides will be sent to everyone who registered for the webinar or attended. And also you'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel, 50 Acres TV, which we'll send you a link to as well. So there's other opportunities if you just want to keep on watching it all day. So let's get started. What today we're looking at is live stream video. Everyone is thinking about it, they're doing it or observing it in their own lives, and so it's something that I think we need to be aware of in terms of how we may or may not be able to utilize it. So that's what today's topic is all about. So now, first of all, what is live stream video? Well, it's broadcasting live video to the internet through a social media platform. Obviously, there's a range of ways we can do it. We can also do it on Twitter, but the most readily utilized platforms at this stage are Facebook, Snapchat, and YouTube. So I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to perhaps participate or even do live stream video, watch it or run it yourself, but they're the most commonly used platforms. There are others that specifically are dedicated to live streaming, which we'll go to in a second. Now, why is it important? Well, really, live streaming is a really powerful way to reach a large audience. Live videos are proven to enhance reach, just like we now know that photos, and we've talked about this in earlier webinars, the use of photos is phenomenally extraordinary in terms of increasing people's ability to read them, stay with them, watch them or read the content. Video, in the same way, does a similar thing, and in fact, more people are saying now, a lot of people are saying, the research indicates that video allows people to actually, watching videos to the end, if they're short, is the best way for people to absorb content from you in some respects. So I think video is something that people need to embrace, and we'll just have a think about how people are doing that and how you might do that as well. Live stream videos are really, raw, they're authentic, they're accessible to both creators and consumers. Audiences are increasingly demanding live content on mobile, and they are no longer happy to wait. We all, if we're looking at news or whatever else, just last night, my son showed me a camera in the United States at a ski field, which has been going for something like a live link just at an intersection, and it's been going for something like 5 years or 7 years or something. I'm not sure any of you know where it is, but we logged on and watched it, and at that moment there was 1,000 people watching, nothing happening on this particular thing. It's become a bit of a thing that people are doing, but people are increasingly watching stuff. There's a video, a live link to something that you may have heard of, which is an experiment of some tar dropping from a into a petri dish from a sort of a funnel in a science laboratory, and I think it's only dropped 4 times in the last century. There's now a live link to it, video link. It's an Australian experiment, I think. There's live links to anything, and we'll go into just some of those in a minute. Digital platforms are pushing live stream video because it offers huge revenue potential. It brings audiences and fetches really high advertising prices, and I'm sure we're all aware of some examples of those. So the evolution of video consumption, well, there's a number of them. This is where it's sort of really come from. It's initially come from live television, traditional platforms as we know it. You needed to tune in or you missed out. Mass concurrent audiences, so we're all doing the same thing. Where were you when X or Y happened? And it was free. There was initially free options, and then with things like Foxtel or others, there are increasingly other platforms that people had to pay to access that free, that live content. Then on demand began, I suppose, not too long ago, if you really think about it, where digital video, either was recorded or streamed, and then you could watch it on your own terms. I mean, I'm sure many of you, like I did, participated in watching a lot of, you went back and watched some of the sports during the Olympics and indeed during the Paralympics on the Channel 7 app that they organised, which is, I thought, a very good app, and you could go back and watch some of that content again, or as many times as you wanted, highlights or the full game or the full event or whatever it was. And you really pay for the convenience of being able to do that. Netflix and Stan and things like that are services that are on demand, video streaming, not in the same way in terms of events, but it's the same, it's in that guise. Then there's real live. Obviously, Facebook Live and Periscope have been the ones that have most recently come into the marketplace. So people were tuned in, watched on your own terms, from whatever device that you are utilizing. And the mass audience, you can have a mass audience, but it's also a very personal, intimate, if you like, event for you. So if you're seeing someone, there's a video that I reference, I won't show you it, but someone giving birth just in the last few days, and it's reached huge audiences. If you're watching that, you'd obviously feel, like you're watching this extraordinary personal event. But I think the woman was broadcasting to something like 100,000 people at the time. Go figure, but that this stuff's being done. So it's free to broadcast and also to watch if you've got an internet connection and a device. That's all you need. So let's think about the actual particular platforms that we've been talking about. So Facebook Live was launched in August 2015, so only last year, just over a year ago, or was first for verified profiles. Important famous people. And then it opened up to all iOS users in January 2016. Android support followed in February of this year. Facebook Live is not the first live streaming platform for social media, but it is the most significant because it's Facebook. Obviously, it's where everyone is. It's where the numbers are. If you're wanting to reach people, it's where you need to be, and you need to be thinking about how you can reach your audience on that platform at the moment. It's the biggest and the most widely used social media platform, as we know. 1.13 billion daily active users on average, 1.03 billion mobile daily active users on average, and 1.71 billion monthly active users, and 1.5 billion mobile monthly active users. It's quite extraordinary how many people are using it. So what is Facebook Live? How does it work, and what's the attraction? It's, they're live videos that are watched on average 3 times longer than non-live videos, which is really interesting. It's been strongly promoted since its launch a year ago, and live videos are prioritized on Facebook feeds. But some of you may not have known that. A notification is sent to all of every friend or fan of a page account when a Facebook Live broadcast begins. And Facebook signed 140 contracts to create Facebook Live content with various celebrities, including Gordon Ramsay, Michael Phelps, news organizations, including the New York Times, CNN, and BuzzFeed. The contracts were worth a combined US $50 million when they first kicked off. I think that's really interesting to really get a hold on, the fact that the live videos are watched 3 times longer than non-live videos, and that they're prioritized on Facebook feeds. I think it is a moment where you really need to have a think about how you might be able to deploy it at an event and, give it a go. We'll have a think about some tips in a little while. So, really interesting. Mark Zuckerberg is not exactly a philosopher or a profound writer, but I thought this was an interesting quote. We built this big technology platform so we can go and support whatever the most personal and emotional and raw and visceral ways people want to communicate as time goes on. People look at live video and they think this is a lot of pressure because it's live. It takes a lot of courage to go live and put yourself out there. But what we're finding is the opposite. A lot of the biggest innovations have been things that take some of the pressure out of posting a photo or video. So I thought that was an interesting quote to run. Now, I think I've got this linked here. Yes, I'll show you the exploding watermelon. If people have seen it, then you don't need to watch it. But it is quite extraordinary. There was almost 1 million people tuned in to watch this BuzzFeed in April, just a few months ago, where they put rubber bands around a watermelon until it exploded. The video broke the record for concurrent viewers on a Facebook live stream. The video, which goes for 45 minutes, and I'm not about to extend this webinar for about 45 minutes, I'll just show you the last minute or two, has now been watched by almost 11 million times. So just bear with me and I'll put it on for you. If you've watched it before, then hang on a minute. Here we go. Oh no, this is the beginning. They get up to 650 rubber bands. I won't bore you with that. It's almost going to happen. If you haven't seen it, just grab a hold of your chair because it's really quite. It's coming up. Sorry, I was watching that this morning and it was quite profound, really. But anyway, let me now find my. Yeah. So I don't know whether any of you had seen that before, but there was 1 million people watching it when it was live. So almost. So there's all sorts of capacity to do all sorts of wacky things, which, might just link you in, depending on what you're trying to do. There might be all sorts of things you might be able to do when you go live. I mean, if 1 million people can watch an exploding watermelon, really put your thinking caps on and have a think about where you might be able to take it. Sorry if that scared you. I watched it this morning and I almost jumped out of my skin, so I hope you were all sitting down when you're watching that. So I won't play you this one, but Candace Payne posted a live video showing her delight with a Star Wars Chewbacca mask she purchased for her son. The video went viral and it propelled the woman into stardom and prompted the mask to sell out across the US. So the video has now been watched by more than 160 million times and shared 3.3 million times. So I'm sure some of you have seen that. My kids certainly had. You know, all sorts of stuff, you know, can happen. But I think I really like the exploding video concept. Again, I won't show you the woman giving birth, but just last Sunday, on September the 11th, an Essex mother in the UK live broadcast her childbirth in a series of 3 videos on a popular online parent community, Channel Mum. And each video was watched by between 50 to 100,000 people. So, you know, I'm not suggesting you all go out and do that, but I think there's all sorts of capacity to make either, you know, personal poignant moments out of some of the things that you're doing. I'm looking at the attendee list today. I'm thinking most of you are probably not-for-profits, but some of you may have other interests as well. And I think there's all sorts of capacity to do both fun events, poignant things within limits, and you know, all sorts of things I think are possible. Really, you just got to really put your creative thoughts out there. So let's have a think about some of the other platforms. Snapchat. Facebook isn't the only social platform that pushes live video. Live streaming video. Snapchat, and some statistics about Snapchat, 49 million unique visitors watched the live Olympics content on Snapchat in the first week of Rio, which is almost a third of the platform's 150 million daily active users. So that's pretty phenomenal. They obviously had some extraordinary content, but huge engagement there. YouTube, I mean, just going back for a moment to Snapchat, one of the things that I would say, and we did a specific webinar about Snapchat a few months ago, and if you're interested, is actually up online on a YouTube channel. But the statistics about Snapchat is not that it's for teenagers anymore. More and more sort of people in their early 20s through to the 30s, people that are older, are utilizing it. And I think it's like any platform, when it first starts, there's early adopters, they tend to be younger people, but very quickly platforms are then more widely adopted and more widely utilized. And I think this is absolutely the case with Snapchat. So, you know, whether or not you are personally utilizing it, you know, in your own daily life. I know the platforms that I use, I tend to use Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and you know, I might use one or two other things to dabble with. I have a RSS feeder that I look at blogs on. I have Snapchat. I don't use it personally, but I absolutely see the validity and the possibility of utilizing it for a client, or utilizing it in a campaign, or utilizing it for some particular purpose. So you know, certainly if you've got an audience that you're wanting to reach that are either millennials or in their 20s or early 30s, I absolutely think you need to think about Snapchat, and potentially, obviously, with the live video capability, it's really worth thinking about. YouTube, we talked about YouTube a little bit before, but Facebook is not the only social media platform pushing live video. Now, as you know, YouTube is now owned by Google, and I met, actually, in January this year. I was funnily enough, in a cooking course in Paris, as you are, learning to cook something. And there was a fellow there who worked for Google in San Francisco in the headquarters. And he's a senior guy, and he was in the YouTube division. And I think he said there's something like, 800 developers in the YouTube division. It's phenomenal how many people have working on this stuff, and they were looking at advertising, and they were probably looking at how they, linked in to live streams. I'm sure a lot of you have YouTube. They utilize it. I certainly use it as a regular thing that I watch. You can subscribe to various channels, but using it for live streaming is absolutely absolutely there and to be used. In the past year alone, viewings of live video on YouTube have increased by 80%. The number of live streams posted on YouTube has increased by 130%. So, the numbers are there. The growth is massive, and it's something that we can all think about. It's one of the platforms that you can reach out to people on, and you could potentially do it on both, YouTube Live and Facebook simultaneously. Twitter is another one that we need to think about as well. So Facebook isn't the only social media platform pushing live video. As we know, Twitter won the rights to live stream the US NFL games, paying $15 million to stream 10 games this year. Twitter has since signed deals to live stream a number of other sports, including Wimbledon, CBS News, the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, and the Pac-12 networks. Twitter live streamed the Democratic and Republican conventions in July, and I'm certain that they're going to be introducing the capacity to live stream for the general public in the not too distant future. So potentially, if you think about an event, you've got the capacity to potentially live stream it to a number of platforms simultaneously, which would then increase your uptake. And the other thing is, if you're live streaming it to somewhere like YouTube, you can then record it and post it up later. So have a think about that. Have a think about using a number of platforms simultaneously. If you've got a number of devices, you could absolutely have them all sitting there, watching whatever it is that you're doing. If you've got 2 or 3 people using cameras. News organisations are also following this trend, and I'm sure some of you have seen this. BBC live streams include, from Brussels during and after the March 22nd attacks, from Brazil with a clinic doctor answering questions about the Zika virus, for example, and from Rio in partnership with Snapchat, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. NBC live streamed 4,500 hours of video from Rio just recently, and up from 1,000 hours delivered from Russia in 2014 with the Winter Olympics. So, there is a demand for it, people want it, and the news organisations are responding. And I think as, campaigners and as communicators, we all have to think about how we might be able to use it as well. If you're taking footage or if you're taking photos, you can have a think about how you might be able to live stream something, even if it's for 20 minutes. Play around with it. If you're doing, there's often, I've seen and I've been invited to various events where sometimes people have 24-hour running events or 24-hour competitions for charity where people take it in turn to do something, whatever it is. Now, there's no reason why you couldn't have that live streamed. You're not necessarily going to have someone watching in the middle of the night, but the point is, for example, if you've got competitors competing or doing a run or whatever it is for 24 hours, give people outside the capacity to see them doing it at any time of the day. If you're doing something that's a long-lived event and you can have a fixed camera somewhere, then have a think about it. I think it would be well worth exploring. So let's think about some tips in terms of how you can actually deploy these platforms. Live video streaming is very accessible. Facebook Live, its functionality is intuitive for those already in the Facebook ecosystem, and there's a manual here as well that you can get. We're going to send these slides out later today, so this is a link to the manual for Facebook Live. It makes analytics easy by making available the following metrics. So peak current viewers is the highest number of viewers who were watching the video while it was live. Viewers during the live broadcast, a visual representation of the numbers of viewers during each moment of the live broadcast. Minutes viewed, the total minutes of watch time spent on the video on a particular day. Views, the number of times your video was viewed on a particular day. 10-second views, the number of times the video was viewed to 10 seconds on a particular day. If the video is shorter than 10 seconds, this metric refers to the number of times people viewed at least 97% of the video. So obviously it's probably better to have your video lasting longer than 10 seconds to enhance those metrics for yourself. And let's think about also just generally, what does live video do? And we're coming to the end now of the webinar. So if anyone's got any questions, please pop them up. Live video for on any platform really can be deployed to build anticipation, tell your followers ahead of time when you're going to broadcast live. It can be a sort of novelty. It can be a fun thing, or it can be something that can be emotionally laden. But flagging it and letting it be part of your event, letting it be part of your fundraising, letting it be part of the buzz of the event is really what you're trying to do. Write a compelling headline and description of your video before you start broadcasting. And say hello to people as they follow and they comment. You could see from that BuzzFeed one that we had, as that was going, there was lots and lots and lots of comments, which was quite, as they were coming in. Now someone's just asked a question. So how do you set up live broadcasting on Facebook? Sorry, that was Rachel. Rachel, there is a manual which we will send, there is a link to. And there's also, if you can see at the bottom of the page, there's some best practices and tips specifically for Facebook Live, but there is a manual which we send a link to, and that's probably the easiest thing. I think go through and read it. It's a bit complicated to explain now, but it's pretty easy once you just sort of get in there and have a read of it. Someone else has asked me, Joanna, do you have any examples of how Australian NFPs have successfully used live video? Not to hand, but let me have a look for some. I think probably in the sense of, I was recently a part of, or I am, we give you one example, small example in my own community. We do the pro bono PR for the Gundaroo Music Festival, which is a music festival that raises money for motor neuron disease. One of the dads of some children at our local school developed motor neuron disease and passed away a couple of years ago. And this festival was created in his honour and raises money for that cause. They put an ice bucket challenge on last year. Again, it's an ability to continually raise money. It's done towards the end of the year. The festival starts warm enough to have an ice bucket challenge. But we put, the festival organisers, the audiovisual guys, put that on Facebook and did that. So I think it's a capacity of doing something. If you're doing something that's sort of fun and it's going to go on for a while, and you can have a fixed camera that people can dip in and out of, I think that's the sort of place that you could deploy it for. The other thing is if there's an emotional event, or just an event where people are speaking, perhaps, where there's going to be an extraordinary speaker that people can't get to, and you want to reach people all over the country, why not broadcast that event live? I've been to weddings where there were families in other parts of the world, and we had a live link. It was through Skype, arguably, but it's a similar concept. So why not think about either a speech or a conference or a keynote address or some sort of event that you're doing that that there's a lot of people out there that might want to be participate, but they just can't be there. Ask the audience to subscribe to the page or channel and newsletter if they haven't already, so that they can keep in contact with you and you can let them know when you're doing something. Don't be too brief. Obviously, the longer you broadcast, the more people that you reach. So, as I said, I've not participated in, but I'm aware of a number of fundraising, sporting events that have, gone on for 24 hours, and where people walk around a paddock or wherever or a field or whatever, keep going for charity, and they, so having a live camera there at those sorts of things that are an endurance event allow people to dip in and out. And the other thing, it's a bit like a telethon in some respects. It also enables people to go, well, I really should, dig into my pocket and give something here. So I think there is a number of ways you can utilize it and deploy it. Don't be shy and try it out often. I think it's about thinking, really, why not? Let's try it. It doesn't cost anything. I've got a phone. I can tap into the you can do it live from your phone. Why not just try it and see what happens? Obviously, publicize it and make sure that people know that you're doing it. Otherwise, you might be disappointed about how many people you get. And if you get onto Periscope, if you've, I don't know whether anyone has played around with Periscope at all. I played around with it when it first came on, and you can jump on there and people are doing all sorts of random things, and there's 6 people watching or 5 people watching or whatever. There's sort of, I don't know the people who sit there watching this stuff, but you obviously need to tell people that you're there. But I think with using Facebook or YouTube Live, there is an absolutely very clear vehicle that you can then deploy through your normal channel and publicize through your normal channels. So it's just one more page. So let's just get to the conclusion. And again, if anyone's got any final questions, this is the last page. So, the question I asked at the beginning, is it a gimmick or is it a changemaker? And I think it's probably both. It's, definition of gimmick as a trick or a device intended to attract attention, publicity, or trade. Well, in that sense, it is absolutely a gimmick. But it offers a very fresh, fun, and really effective way to communicate with your audience. And it's cheap, free, and easy to use. So, it really is changing the way audiences interact with social media, and it's changing the way audience expect or anticipate content from us. And I think the way we can influence people on whatever level we're trying to influence them on about whatever issue that might be. So I do think it's something that's worthwhile thinking about. And I wish you all the best of luck with it. The next webinar is going to be on October the 19th. We'll send out an invitation to that in the next day or so. And thanks again for joining in today. Have a lovely day, everyone.